Did you know you don't have to go to the bank to get a loan? People will actually trust you with their stuff to pay over time. That is what we call owner financing. And in this episode, that's what we're going to be talking about on Middle Class Man. Before we go any further, subscribe to this episode on YouTube, give it a like, follow me on social media at Middle Class Man with 2 N's at the end. Now first, let's break down what you can buy owner financed. Anything. You want to buy a boat? Owner finance. You want to buy a house? You can owner finance it. Want to buy a car? Want to buy an electronic? Want to buy something that you want but you can't afford? There's probably somebody out there that will owner finance it to you. Now in this episode of talking about owner finance, you've got to stay to the end because I'm going to tell you exactly what every owner finance deal has to have. But first, let's talk about the story of my party rental company that I bought owner financed. This company was in business 9 years before I purchased it. And about 2 years before I purchased it, the guy tried to sell it to me owner financed a couple of times. But in those couple of times, the terms didn't work out. He wanted way too much money. And when he wanted to sell it to me was right at the end of the season. And there was no revenue to be made for about 4 or 5 months. But one day he came to me and said, "Chris, I've got a deal you can't refuse." So he offered me this business for $60,000, but the terms are what gave it away. He said, "I'll sell it to you for $60,000 over 5 years at $1,000 a month. 0 interest and no banks. And here's the kicker, along with the 60 months, you can stay in the building for 60 months rent-free." Well, heck yeah, I wanted to sign on the dotted line right then, but I did have to step back and say, okay, let me think about this and I'll tell you tomorrow. The next day came and we made the agreement. And I still own that business today. And actually at the beginning of this month that I recorded this video, I paid off the 60th month. So I own that business free and clear, 5 years, owner financed, 0% interest, free 60 months of rent, a stellar deal. So the first thing you may ask is, where do we find these deals? The first place you can find these owner finance deals are with family and friends. I was just speaking with a friend the other day that sold his boat slip that had 8 slips that boats could park at, and he sold it to a family member that was about 30 years younger, owner financed over 20 years. The 30-year younger family member could not pay for it with cash, but they set up a deal that made both parties happy on an owner finance and no banks. So definitely the first area that you look for this is with your inner circle, with your family, and with your friends. Number 2 is always looking on social media, Facebook Marketplace, looking on Craigslist, looking on others, and searching the terms owner finance. If it's a property, you want to look on Zillow. If it's a commercial property, look on the various commercial property websites. But search those places. Use owner finance as a keyword. Type in financing by owner as the keyword. Type in those things, those different types of keywords to find those places. And number 3, and probably the most important, is keep your ears open. I'm working on a deal right now that the only way that I was able to get my foot in the door and talk to this person is that I kept my ears open. When you hear people talking about selling something or getting rid of something, listen, they want to move that item. Some people just want to move those items. And in a lot of cases, they will finance it to someone they know or someone they trust. So that goes into what we call the 4 B's of owner financing. And when I say B, I mean B as in Bravo, B as in boy, B as in boom shakalaka. Okay, that's my funny for the video. But these are the 4 B's that you have to discuss when you approach a deal that is owner finance, no matter what it is. Number 1, and one of the most important aspects of owner financing, is that you have to be flexible. Now, I'm not talking about a contortionist type flexibility. I'm talking about mentally flexible. You've got to be willing to take some no's. You're going to get people that say no. You're going to get people that say that's crazy. You're going to get some people that say maybe or probably. You need to be able to be mentally flexible to take those answers and be able to sort those out and then move forward to the next. Number 2 is you need to be prepared. Don't go in to try to purchase something owner finance and you have no idea what's going on. Make sure you are prepared for that discussion. And when I'm talking about prepared, I mean being prepared for what they are going to ask you. You've got to understand, they are financing you. They are acting like the bank on whatever you want to purchase. So they've got to ask you some questions. They've got to understand where you come from. So you're going to get questions like, how much do you make? You may even get a question like, why should I trust you? Or why should I sell it to you specifically? And then they're going to ask something like, what if you can't make the payment? So all those common questions that you would normally have to give to a financial institution like a bank in a sort of way like with credit applications and W-2s with bank statements and things like that, they're going to ask you face to face. And you got to be prepared to give them an answer. And when answering those questions comes number 3. You've got to be truthful. Regardless of where you are at in your financial journey, when you're asked that question of your financial background or of anything of that sort, you have to be truthful. If you've been to church, you've heard the truth will set you free. A lot of times in these owner finance deals, the truth will set you free and will sometimes get you a better deal. Got to understand, people that are owner financing things love to help people out. That's why they're going to give the option to owner finance. If they didn't want to owner finance, they would just sell it outright and make somebody pay with either a cashier's check from a bank. So they want to be able to trust you and be able to even help you out with this owner finance deal. And in all that comes one of the most important B's of all. Be discerning, but not devious. Make sure you are doing your due diligence on that owner finance deal so you know what's going on with this product that you're purchasing, whether it's real estate or a boat or a car or some type of product. Know what you're buying, but don't get to the point where you're degrading the product so much or degrading the person where the deal can't happen. So here are a couple questions that you want to ask. Ask a simple one like, why are you selling this? You can even ask what's wrong with it. And here's another way of asking what's wrong with it is asking the person, is there anything that I need to be aware of before I purchase this item? Say you're buying a car and it's owner finance and you ask that question, is there anything that I need to be aware of before I purchase this car? Well, you're telling that person, hey, I'm concerned about this car. I'm willing to purchase it, but I want to know what's up. And when you're asking in that way, they know you're serious, but they know you're not just trying to get under them. They just know that you're serious about this product. So those are 4 B's that are critical to closing the deal when you're owner financing something. So that moves us into our last thing, closing that owner finance deal. You've made it up to this point in this deal. You've been flexible, you're prepared, you're truthful, you're discerning but not devious. So you're ready to close this deal. But here's the thing that you need to know that goes with every owner finance deal. Make sure you have something in writing. It's true, if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. I had this happen with this $60,000 purchase of the business at one time. The land that it was on had 3 trailers on it, and all those trailers were hooked up to one water source. There was no agreement on who should pay that water bill. I was under the impression that the trailers would pay it, but he was under the impression that I would pay all of it. We finally figured it all out, but it wasn't in writing, and that became a discussion that we had after the deal was done. And who knows, in other cases, that discussion could have blown up and gone crazy. In this deal, it went okay. But make sure to write down everything. If it is not written down and signed upon, it didn't happen. You also want to make sure all your bases are covered with insurance and liability. You don't want 1 year down the road something to happen where you thought you had something insured and then it wasn't insured and then you're left with something that's broken that you're still paying for. Don't get yourself into a position just by not putting it on paper. By putting it on paper, it reinforces those B's that we just talked about that being truthful, being prepared, being flexible, being discerning. As long as you're reinforcing those 4 B's, this owner finance deal is gonna be a great deal for you. So that begs the question, what are you gonna owner finance? What are you looking for next? Are you looking for some land? Are you gonna buy a car? Are you gonna buy a house owner finance? I own 2 houses that we recently, a couple years ago, purchased owner finance. We had to put less than 10% down. They cash flow and they're great properties that are appreciating right now. So if you have the opportunity to owner finance something, do it. Sometimes you can get even a better interest rate than what the bank would give you or what a credit union would give you. Don't be scared to ask that question. Hey, do you mind financing this yourself? Because more so than not, you're going to find that people are willing to owner finance. I want to thank you for tuning into one of the things that I love, and that's owner finance. If you've got a question about owner financing something, hit me down in the comments. I'd love to respond back to you and talk about maybe what you're trying to owner finance, and we can try to figure out a way that you can get a better deal at that and some encouragement for you on what you're purchasing. And don't forget, please hit that subscribe button at the bottom, like this video, share it with a friend, send it out there. This is something that I think can change the financial world if people can understand that owner financing is the way to go. Big banks, get out of here.